Mm-hmm.
All right. Hey, sorry we've been rambling on here this morning. My name's Tom Christie. This is a Civic Sundays, a project of the Civics Project. And earlier this week, I followed a newspaper article, local journalism. We always talk about that being very important. I wouldn't have known any of what we're going to talk about today if it wasn't in the newspaper. So kudos to local journalism. And there was an article and a profile piece on the Entrepreneur School of Thought. So read that. Actually, somebody forwarded me the article. I didn't read the paper that morning, and somebody sent it to me. And thank you, Colin, for sending me that. And I showed up. The article said, don't call us, don't make an appointment, just show up. So I did. And I met with the president of the Entrepreneur School of Thought, which was Trent Hamilton, who's on screen right now. So let me say, Trent, thanks for coming this morning. And
thank you for having me.
Yeah, maybe you could describe what the Entrepreneur School of Thought is before I ramble on about it.
Well, the Entrepreneur School of Thought is essentially a community resource center for adults. And what I say is I try to be a bridge to success for any of the community's needs. So it's not just about being an entrepreneur. I know that word intimidates people sometimes, but I try to just encourage people from the community to come in, and I try to be as resourceful as possible to help them in all ways. All ways, not just through business. All ways of life, because especially if you want to be an entrepreneur, there's so much to it than just business. You got to have your life in order. And that's what I'm here for. I'm here for the community all the way.
It is an intimidating word, entrepreneur. It's a hopeful word. It's a complicated word. It does scare people. Everybody wants to be one. They don't know what it is, and they certainly don't know how much work it takes. I'm sure, when I was there on Thursday, several people stopped in and just really didn't know what to do. They wanted to feel it out, but they didn't know why they were there or what to do. They didn't seem terribly entrepreneurial, but they were wanting to do something. Is that what you find people coming in for?
Yeah, that's when I say a community resource center, it's for the community. If you want to come in and just drink a cup of coffee, if you want to come in and play chess, because the key thing is to get people there. Then we can start to push programs on them. When we have speakers and workshops, we can encourage them to attend and things like that. A lot of times when you're dealing with adults, we get caught up in our lives. So just to say, do this and do that, it's hard to do it. So once you get comfortable in a place, then you'll be more likely to do the things that the place offers, Well,
why don't you give the address too? Because we're talking because we've both been there, but.
1110 19th Street, Niagara Falls, New York, 14301. It's a big orange building between LaSalle and Aston. You won't miss it.
And if you're not from Niagara Falls, because I'm not, you would go down Pine Avenue either way, and where the McDonald's is about 19th. That's 18th, 19th, 20th. And in McDonald's parking lot, there's a CVS. It's a big market square, but 19th is just on the other side of that, and it's easy to find. A couple blocks up.
Very easy. All the streets are numbered off Pine Avenue.
Yep. And you have resources in there too. So you know what? A lot of times we found during COVID, I work for a corporation, we sent people home to work and found some people don't have a home Wi-Fi connection. That's no small ticket item to a budget these days. You guys have, I saw in one of your rooms, you had computer hookups and internet connection. That might be valuable to people, right?
We have a computer lab with 6 computers. 2 of them are multimedia computers. We have podcast equipment, and we have a printer. So it's all for the community. We don't charge for anything. If somebody wanted to donate paper, donate things, we accept that, but it's there available for the community. Those are resources for the community. And I like to reiterate that. Right. And I tell people, a lot of people have computers and they have places where they can work at home, but the distractions of home could be bothersome. So you can come there and do things and probably be actually more successful at doing them, just being away from home.
Yep. And the podcast setup was interesting because these days that's a big thing. And people don't know how to start. People don't know how to get into it. They certainly don't have the equipment for it. That looked like more than just a laptop setup. It looked pretty sophisticated.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I'm one of the ones, I don't know too much about it. I can do it the most simple thing. And which people are doing it's real easy because you can use Facebook Live. I mean, it's real. The microphones, just to speak on it and to broadcast something via Facebook Live, that's the easiest way. But to actually going in and editing with audio and video, I don't know how to do it, but it's all there. We have the editing software and everything on the computers. So anyone that's knowledgeable on that, come on in. Come if you wanted to help people, you want to do it yourself. Doors are open 11 to 5, Monday through Friday.
Right.
And the building, when people need to do, I say Monday through Friday, but the building is actually 24 hours. If you actually needed to do something, we can arrange for the building to be open and the resources to be available to you.
Right. Now, you grew up in Niagara Falls, right?
Yeah.
Born and bred in Niagara Falls. What is it like today compared to when you were young? Is it better, worse, the same?
In aspects, I don't know, it's the same Niagara Falls to me. It's different now. Don't get me wrong. There's not as much
I should
to
have said
do.
different. Yeah. I should have said different.
I mean, I see hopelessness in the people a lot. You know, when I was growing up there, I didn't see it. Because I just know for myself, I was ambitious, and I didn't. And I just see a lot of hopelessness with the people in Niagara Falls. I have from reading and stuff, I see that jobs are leaving. I see the population dwindling. And so for me to study it, I see drastic change. But I guess if you're living there, you may not see it. You may not even understand it. But yeah, it's definitely changing, and not for the better. But you know what? Recently, with our movement and stuff, I see people wanting to change. I see people riding the wave of the movement, and I'm optimistic about that.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what got us here won't get us there is a popular entrepreneurial phrase.
Yeah.
The city, I should have said different, because it's certainly different than it was 30 years ago. But do you think it's a 21st century difference? You know, like you go to other cities and you've traveled, you know, they progress maybe at a different speed. Is Niagara Falls stuck in a certain place, or is it headed in the right direction and we're just got to be more patient? What's the?
I don't think the people have time for patience. We got to push to take advantage of this supposedly wonder of the world. I mean, geez, you look at the tale of two cities. Look right across the border. It's booming over there. You look over here, it's tore up. So. Yeah. No, the time is now. We gotta push for a better Niagara Falls. I mean, a hotel, like you said, an asphalt. Nah, we have the potential is endless, but we have bad leadership, and it's keeping us stagnated. Stuff. No, it ain't even keeping us stagnated. It took us backwards a lot. Mm-hmm. So we gotta try to move forward.
I really like the word impatience because I've been talking to people for a couple of years about this, and that's the sense I get is they're tired of waiting anymore. Like they don't want the same old answer. Like do something, do it now. I'm ready for something to happen. They might not know what, but they're ready for something to happen.
Yeah, without a doubt. Because you've been hearing that for your whole life.
Right.
Oh, we're gonna. Nah, let's start. Yeah. I mean, like you said, a lot of times the people are forgotten about. They do things for big business. You do things for the state, but the city. But what about the people? You know what I mean? The people of Niagara Falls are suffering. We have a casino. We have $60 million coming. There are resources that generate income, but it doesn't reach the people in no way. So, yeah, I mean, it seems like they do more for the outsiders. The city does more for the outsiders. What about the insiders?
What do you think? This is a difficult question, but I'd like you to actually just either, you can answer off the cuff, but ask the people that come into 1110 19th Street too, the Entrepreneurial School of Thought building. Like, what do they think is the number one thing that Niagara Falls should do? You'd have to do number one before you do two, before you do three. What's our number one, thing that we should be working on?
Listen, I know if 300 different people come to the Entrepreneur School of Thought, in 1 week, I'm gonna have 300 different answers. You know what I'm saying? Because because we're gonna look at it from the individual perspective instead of the collective. Well, you know what galvanizes most people is money. But you know what? Hope. Let's have some hope.
Mm-hmm.
Give the people hope. Give the people hope, but not a fantasy of hope, a reality of hope. Something that we can hope for and actually tangibly touch or see. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna do that this week. Everyone that comes in, I'm gonna try to type it out and just have them write that. Tell me what you know, what do you want from Niagara Falls? What do you want for our city?
That would be fantastic. Because again, if you have,
I'm gonna do that for you. I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna have a folder, and I'm gonna put that together for you.
If you have 300 answers, you can sort through them and say, well, these 10 are the same, and these, and there is one, you know, like money. We need money. Before you can get a snowplow to plow the street, you need to get the money to buy the snowplow. So you have to manage the money. Well, where's all the money coming from? Where's it going? You know, a lot of those 300 answers are going to be kind of the same, I would think. And it doesn't even have to be a snowplow, a paved street. I'm telling you, what I'm hearing is desperation. You already mentioned it. I asked the question and people don't even answer because they have no hope. They said, I don't even want anything anymore. They give up. They throw up their hands. I can't believe that answer. You know, they don't have any hope left.
Well, you know, I often tell people to come to the Entrepreneurs School of Thought to find some hope in this hopeless place. I understand that, the frustration of it, but people don't really feel like that. It's just easy. It's an easy answer.
Yep. If anybody wants to ask Trent a question, you can just raise your hand. Mike Reed is out there monitoring this, and he'll put you on. All you have to do is unmute your microphone, and Mike will put you on the screen. So feel free to chime in if you do. You can ask a question in the chat room as well. We'll file through that. What do you think in the next election cycle, let's say participation, what do you think? 3 out of 5 seats are up. The council will totally change. What do we want them to do? What would we do if we had those 3 seats? You know, if it was you, me, and Antoine, you know, who I met on Thursday. What would the 3 of us work on? What would we do?
Keep the fire as people instead of becoming politicians and letting politics run us. You know, we forget about the people a lot of the people that our people, then they become politicians, then they abandon the people and it becomes a political game.
Yeah.
So, you know,
why does that happen? Why does that happen? Why do they totally change when they get in?
You know, the rock star status the politicians get. So now it's just about themselves, and they forget about the collective. It's to advance their careers.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, you know, politics can become evil when you play the game of politics too much. You know, that's why when I encourage people to register to vote, I tell them try to get away from identity politics. Try learning the candidates and seeing what they're going to be able to do for you, for the city, and the collective, not what they're going to eventually do for themselves. So that's a big thing.
You know, you've lived in other places. I've lived in other places, and you drive down Main Street, whatever the street happens to be named in any town, and the vacant buildings, the just totally vacant neighborhoods, right? The thing that's different to me in Niagara Falls is that those vacant buildings are not really vacant. They're not for rent. The state owns them, or one big developer owns them. They're not for sale. They're not open. You and I, in $100, couldn't open a coffee shop and sell coffee to people, to tourists, right? And that's not this year. That's not the last 5 years. It's maybe the last 30 years. That seems unique to Niagara Falls to me. Do you see, you know, that the vacant buildings are like what do they used to call it? The broken window syndrome. You know, if you don't fix it, it'll get worse. Well, vacant buildings seem to generate more vacant buildings. How do we get how do we strangle that beast?
I mean, this is a thing you said. You said the city generates money. We just don't know where it's going. So there's some. I mean, these owners of these vacant buildings, you're not you just holding the building for nothing. You know that there's something corrupt that lies somewhere in there. They're holding the building. There's some reason for it. You know what I mean? Other than that, you should be letting people get them and open businesses or doing something with them instead of letting them be eyesores. So what we have to do is hold these people in charge accountable and start, like you said, see where's this money going? Where are these resources going? Because you're saying it's a poor city, but it actually isn't. There's money that comes through there, but where is it going? Why aren't these buildings open? Why do we have Main Street that looks like a cemetery?
Yeah, by design,
You know?
not by mistake, not because of no money.
The state gives money to the area for businesses to open, small businesses. So who gets it?
Right? Do they? I don't know anybody that got it. Do you? Right? So, hey, do you know the block club movement? You know, is akin to the entrepreneurial school of thought. There's people in every neighborhood, you know, active in doing these things. And there's a woman named Ruth Cooper, who is the block club, or, you know, kind of just a general all around do good person in the near the casino area, the Memorial Park area. Do you know her at all?
No, I'm not familiar with Ruth Cooper at all.
You're about to. She's asking you a question.
Okay.
You're going to know Ruth from here on out. Hey, Ruth, are you there?
Yep, I'm here. Morning,
you made
morning,
a friend
Trent.
today.
Yes,
Hi,
yes,
Ruth.
I
How
love
are you?
it. Good, good. You know, I like what you had to say about, you know, like the politicians, how, you know, they're all well and good while they're out there campaigning, and then they get into office and they seem to forget about people.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't know whether I give this to my dad, because like we were I was born and raised in Brooklyn, and Sundays was our day to sit around the table, and politics was discussed, news was discussed, you know, because I am a little bit older than you. My father always told us when we were younger that politicians are only as good as we make them. Now, I don't know whether he got that from someone else, but one of the things that I've seen since I've been here is the people here have a tendency to think that once voting day is over with, then they can go back to their home and just let things go on. I love the things that you're doing. I've heard a lot about you, and the movement, you know, and your center. And I think you're on the right track when it comes to, we have to start holding them accountable. Like you just talked about money. Where's the money going? Well, you know, the internet provides all sorts of public information. So when you have, whether you have like a non-for-profit organization, you can go out to the Charities Bureau and you can pull their 990s, which are their taxes. And you can find out how much money is going to the program and how much money is going to a person's salary. And then how much, how good is that program? Because a lot of these are getting, you know, government money, whether it comes from community development, federal or state. And, you know, they say knowledge is power. The more we learn and the more we can hold people accountable, and we just can't sit at our homes.
No.
We have to be active, and we also cannot be afraid to stand up when something is occurring that's unjust, whether it's for your neighborhood or for your city. I do see a lot of that happening, a lot more than I did, you know, 15 years ago when I moved here. And you're right, this is a fabulous city. People are, you know, like I think we have we've never changed the way we do things. Everything here has been a top-down approach. What you're doing is you're doing things from the bottom up.
Yes.
And that is a movement that's good.
Thank you. Thank you.
So
Well,
I'm going to have to swing by to see you one of these days.
I encourage you to. Please do. Please.
Definitely.
Like you said too, people get complacent with small victories, and we keep up. I like you said, we vote for someone, they win, and we lose the fire. We got to keep the fire, keep our foot on the gas. These small victories, I mean, they help, but they could hurt too, because they they make us fall back. They're not the be all that ends all. They're
Right.
supposed to continue to motivate us and keep us pushing forward.
Mhm.
A lot of times they make us sit down, and I've been trying to encourage people, even with recently with the Chauvin conviction, and I seen people rejoicing. I said, no, it's not. That's just a small victory. We got to keep our foot on the gas now. Don't get complacent, because that's when things repeat themselves.
Right. I agree.
You know, one of the things, Ruth, that I always think is we all need to talk more to each other. And the social media, I mean, the COVID thing is perfect because we can talk like this. I mean, we didn't all have to leave anywhere. We're home today, and we're still having a good conversation. But sometimes the priorities, sometimes Trent's problem, whatever he thinks is the top problem, needs to be everybody's problem for that minute until we solve it. But then sometimes your problem is the one, and Trent and I and everyone else needs to focus all our attention on that problem to fix it.
Right.
If we have a list of problems to chunk through, in order to do what? In order to hopefully, I guess, build the best city on the planet. I really think Niagara Falls should be one of the world-class cities. That phrase gets thrown around a lot. When I hear, you know, I'm watching the Cooking Channel the other night, and they're doing a Charlotte, North Carolina profile, and the city grew by 1 million people over 10 years. We didn't. I mean, that's growth, right? Phoenix, Arizona, in a 10-year period, got 1.5 million new residents. And when I see local journalism, the Buffalo News headline that the new census figures are out, and Buffalo has lost only 12,000 in population, and Niagara Falls has lost only 4,000, and we're growing, what the heck? Who are we kidding here? You know, we didn't grow by 10,000 or 50,000 or 100,000. Those should be our goals. And with the 100,000 comes the value of a resident, maybe $10,000 a year in taxes and sales taxes and buying things and shopping locally. So there's values to having value to somebody moving in. So we haven't, I mean, I don't have these goals yet, but I'd like to work with Trent and Ruth and others to come up with what do we want to do, not just we should be a better city or we should have less of this or more of that, like concrete things. Because we have the city council we have, which really, those are our 5 people. And it's like the Bills or Sabres, you know, they're our team. We work with them until they're not on our team anymore. And we work with the new team. So we just don't want anyone to ever say, well, you never asked me that. You know, you never told me you wanted that. We should be telling everybody loud and clear, you know, what it is Niagara Falls stand for. And I think I mentioned this to you before, Trent, where I've asked multiple people, what is Niagara Falls' #1 industry or business? What does it stand for? Nothing. I mean, 10 things, we should be this or that. But if you're multiple things, you're not one thing. And I think the obvious answer is tourism. If you're not a tourism city, I don't know what else you'd be. That big ditch isn't going anywhere for a long time. So anyway.
One of the things that I think is important is you talked about like the block clubs, like the neighborhood associations and groups such as yours. We have so many groups and the businesses. We have to create a community where we are all in touch, because what's happening in my neighborhood is not getting down to his neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
I may have a problem where like we may have a problem here that they can help us resolve, or working on bigger issues. Like when it comes, like one of the things that I had talked with, some of the neighbors about is this $48 million, what is it, the Welcome Center?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, and it's funny, like who decides all of this? Does this come from the state? What would be, to me, it would be better to have 48 $1 million venues going on down here, get rid of some of these parking lots and get those vacant buildings up and running, than it is to spend $48 million on one building when we already have, what is it, the Goodbye Center or the Welcome Center over on Grand Island.
The goodbye center.
I call it the goodbye center because, like as you're coming in, you would have thought they would have put the exit at that other side. You know,
Right.
think about it. They,
I
if
just did.
if you're driving here, you're driving north, but yet they put the welcome center for the. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
No, that's right.
It just seemed a little. I just kind of call it the goodbye center. And now we're going to build another one. Is this exactly the same thing? I don't know. And I mean,
Well,
that's where I think we could hold, work collectively with little groups to say, hey, what is this 48 million? Then you contact, this is not a local, like our politicians probably didn't even know about this. Maybe the mayor did, we don't know, but we do have our state representatives.
Ruth, one thing that drove me nuts as a kid growing up was the the pat on the head type mentality, and take this and be happy with it.
Right.
When parents to do that to kids, and as soon as I was old enough, which was like 10, I said, stop doing that. I will get a paper route. I will buy my own, whatever. I hated anyone in authority telling me, what to do. Same with this. Who asked for that center? I mean, I'm sure someone did. I read Tom Prohaska's article. He said there was a big study. There was a consultant. I never heard about it. You never heard about it. Trent never heard about it.
Hadn't been going on for many years, and so when, like the John Daly Boulevard extension that I went to a charrette about 15 years ago. I think my first year here, 15 years ago, I went to a charrette. Well, we still don't have the John Daly Boulevard opened up.
Yeah. What's a charrette? Whoa, you're throwing words.
Well, it's basically a collective of people, like from, we had business people, we had people from the neighborhood, the city, anybody could have gone to this. And it's planning. It's like a planning.
Yeah.
It's a planning tool where people sit down and they decide, they tell you what they're thinking about doing.
Yeah.
And they want to hear.
I get it. I just love the name.
They called it a charrette, but it's no different than the DRI that went on up at the north end at the railroad station.
Yep. Yeah.
There was like 6 or 7 meetings.
Trent, you had something?
Those are all examples of the mismanagement we talk about.
Right.
I talked about the funds are coming in, but where are they going? Like you said, Tom, you talked about the company on 3rd Street. The city gives them they give them $8 million to develop some property that'll probably cost $100,000. When you could give $100,000 to 80 different people, companies, whatever, instead of giving this one $8 million. Like, come on now, the funds it's all a part of the corruption within the city, man. I mean, like I said, at the end of the day, the people are being forgot about. You taking care of businesses. You got this cronyism and nepotism and corruption. We got to stop. First though, as people, we got to wake up. Let's see it and start to call it out. And speak on it, and stop letting these small victories make us sit down.
Trent, and my point would be, if we keep this to building the city and building the biggest, baddest city in the world, right? Becoming Singapore. You can have all the nepotism you want. I'm not trying to get rid of corruption or nepotism even. Build the city that we have the resources to build. You can steal all you want. Steal more. Have more relatives on the payroll. But we are not looking at the right city yet. Build a bigger, better city. Take it from tourist dollars. Hold them upside down and shake the money out of their pockets. That's what tourists come to spend money. And then we can even have more nepotism. I just want to build the city where we can all have jobs, right?
Well, we're not even capitalizing off of that.
Right.
There's tourists looking for places to spend the money. They can't even spend it.
I think a starting base, and I think this has always been, this is a pet peeve of mine, and that is people here have a tendency to utilize our poverty as an excuse for poor behavior, as an excuse for the uncleanliness. My family was not rich by any means. I mean, we were 2 blocks away from Bed-Stuy. I mean, we were not Brooklyn back in the 60s, we were not wealthy people, hardworking people, but that was it. But nobody made an excuse about anything. Here, our neighborhoods are filthy, dirty. Our houses are filthy and dirty. And they'll say, well, they're poor. Being poor is not an excuse for the litter and the garbage throughout our city. And no tourist wants to see that.
Ruth, hold that thought for 1 minute. I want to ask you about the poverty industry, but John came in and he has a question. So hold on 1 second. I want to come back to that. John, are you there?
Oh yeah, I'm here. How's it going, Tom?
Good, John. How are you?
Good. Hi, Mr. Hamilton. Nice to see you.
Hi, John. How are you?
Good. The biggest thing is there's $50 million were just brought into Goat Island, and that was from the governor. That has nothing to do with the city, because the city's not going to get a dime from it. Not one thin dime. We don't get anything from Goat Island. So that building is useless to us. But the sad thing is I saw the mayor, I saw our state representative Ort, I saw Assemblyman Morinello high-fiving each other down there as if it was doing something for us. And it's not doing anything. And these victories, we have none. We don't even have any. We're 0 for 100. We have nothing. And that was a perfect example. Now I just looked at that. It's $50 million. It's on Goat Island. We don't even get parking. We get nothing from Goat Island. The city of Niagara Falls gets zero. The taxpayer, the residents have no relief. That didn't help us any. So now we're going to turn around, and soon there's going to be an election for those 3 guys. Will anyone remember that they were just over there high-fiving each other, very excited, nice quotes in the paper, and no one will remember? And here's my problem. No one remembers because, we're busy, we're doing other things. But when the time comes to vote again, I will guarantee you all 3 of them will win resoundingly. They'll win by 70%. There won't even be close. So sooner or later, Tom, Trent, all this is all good. And I understand, but we got to know the connections and the history of these people that are the corrupt, because they're so deeply connected. It goes further than just City Hall. It goes way beyond, and it's been going on for like decades. So I want it to be better, of course, but I don't think it gets better until we sweep it out. I don't know, we actually got to sweep them out the door, and we have chances every couple of years, and we're going to have another chance now. Like Tom was saying, 3 new council people. So far, unfortunately, if you look at who's running, I could probably tell you who they are from 20 years ago. They're different names, but the same type of person. So I would hope that maybe, guys, that we somehow get people to understand that the corruption is beyond even the men and women that are sitting there today. It's deep. And,
let me say that the reason I think civics is important is because we generally have muddled along from election to election. And when you get down to it, there's somebody running unopposed, or 2 people are running and you have a choice between that. If we flip the switch completely, flip the model completely, and we every day pay attention. So you're mentioning, budgets and things like that. Well, there's no reason we can't get those and put them online and searchable. And we know everything that's coming along. And we just talked about talking to candidates from now till November instead of just in November, that we tell the candidates have a good expectation of what we want, rather than just them telling us what they'll do. We kind of flip that to being a lot more responsible ourselves, to looking stuff up, having data. Somebody's a budget expert, somebody's a process expert, somebody knows what the state does. That in through that, somehow we become better citizens, because civics isn't those elected officials. It's the Salvation Army. It's the School of Entrepreneurial Thought. It's John, it's you, it's Ruth in Memorial Block. It's the Senecas. If we don't all talk together, we can't ask for the right thing. That was the other problem of, you got something for Christmas that you didn't ask for, right? That happens all the time. I get Christmas gifts and I'm like, I don't want this stuff. It doesn't happen anymore when I was looking. Well, because you didn't let it be known what you wanted, type of thing. If we're marching forward intelligently with good data, asking for certain things, we'll get them or we won't. you know, and then we'll get rid of, you know, those people. But
And I
but
like
I
to
don't
add,
even know what we want.
if I could add it, at the Entrepreneur School of Thought, we do this thing every Friday called Express Yourself Friday. And I put it on live, Facebook Live, and at least 1,000 people watch it between the weeks. So what I'm saying is you guys can come and speak and talk to the people and try to and continuously feed them this information. So it could help change the minds and help. We have to continuously do this because people have been so used to doing these old things, and we're trying to get them to do and think differently. So, and part of it is repetition. Continuously tell them, continuously feed them these numbers, continuously show them this. So I'd like to invite you guys, please. Anytime you want to express yourself about anything you want, but specifically about the community, about politics, about the candidates, please come through, and the floor is yours.
I think understanding how our government works at the lower level and how we interact with the state level, the more that we can do from the bottom up, like what your group is doing, the more educated we become as a voter. And educated voters are scary to politicians, especially those who may not have our interests at heart. So, like a lot, like for instance, this is just people from our group didn't know the power that a zoning board has. Like we actually had city councilors who thought because they appointed people to a zoning board that means that then they will do whatever they tell them to do, and that's not the case. The zoning board is part of the judicial branch of government. So basically those guys and girls that sit on that board are judges. They don't work for they don't work for the legislative branch. They're a totally different aspect of government. And so the understanding like what our government does locally, every branch of it, what the departments do and what they're responsible for, all the way up to how we interact with our state legislative and our Senate. That just helps the voter make better determinations, and how to hold them accountable, in the end.
And Ruth, I mean, you have been an advocate in the community for, at least 20 years, and Trent is just meeting you. I mean, we need to all meet each other and talk constantly. I like to say, I don't like anyone really, but I mean, I love everyone. So,
I used to tell people I didn't, like people would say to me, like, you can't say that, people aren't going to like you. And it's like, I'm not here to make friends. I'm actually here because this is really, I came here because of my daughter. She moved here. Yeah. She was 19 years old and I get a call from her and she's like, Mom, I bought a house. And I'm like, what do you mean you bought a house? We never were able to afford a house or buy a house until right when she was born. And here she is. She bought a beautiful little house on 16th Street. And it is, the city could be so much if we could connect the dots, like with our group, like block clubs get together with Trent's organization. And, it could be just the leaders of those groups.
Well, Ruth, you had the idea to have the candidates, talk more than just in November, from now till November.
Yeah. I'd like roundtable discussions. I'd like to see all 5 or 6 or how many there are sit there with a discussion like we're having right now.
Could we invite Trent to?
Oh my gosh, he would be great.
Ruth, you can come to the Entrepreneur School of Thought. We got, come. You can utilize.
I'm going to make sure that I'm going to make sure I get down there sometime. Are you there like starting at 11?
Yeah, 11 to 5, Monday through Friday. Colin Ligamari, Dante Miles.
I know Dante.
They all come there. So I mean, they're familiar with the place. So that it'd be easy to get done. It's another lady. She's gonna go on the ballot. Her name is Shanita Streeter. But they're all familiar with the Entrepreneur School of Thought, and I can see them being comfortable with coming in. However you want to do it. However if you
Yeah, I'll
can
just
plan
swing
it and put
by,
it together. And I'm saying as far as getting the candidates there and asking them what they want to do or whatever you want to do, whatever, if they're up to it, the places that you can utilize whatever you can at the Entrepreneur School of Thought. We have a
All right,
couple
Ruth.
rooms. We got a basement with
Ruth, I gotta
tables
go.
and stuff.
I got another question.
Yep.
All right. Thanks, Ruth. Have a good day. Trent, we have Dave Pfaff ready to ask a question if Dave's there. Dave, are you there?
Yeah, it's not just a quick, can you hear me?
Yep,
Hey,
good.
Dave.
Okay. Hi, Trent. It's not really a question. I think everybody needs to keep remembering that civics is not just elections. I mean, I spent a lifetime in elections, as Tom knows, and I'm all about running elections and getting people elected. But it is a everyday kind of thing. It's getting to know your neighbor. It's everybody beginning to talk to each other. Because in the end, politicians love it when we don't talk to each other.
Mhm.
Trust me, they love it because they do not, they just want to keep operating and then they'll say, well, you didn't tell me what to do. And Tom and I were schooled by a guy that used to say, did you know that was going on to an elected official? And he said, no. He says, isn't that your job? Your job is to know what's going on. And it's so important to keep, everybody needs to keep talking to each other. We're all like little islands out there and we need to
Yep.
stay connected. Trent, first time I've seen you, met you, kind of thing. Keep up the good work.
Thank
Hold people accountable, and if an elected official doesn't do what they say, throw them out every 2 years. I don't care if it's a revolving door. Someday you're going to get one of them that says, "I'm going to do the right job." So keep up the good work, and don't get discouraged.
Thank you.
Not just
All right,
you, but everybody. So,
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Dave. I know I hate to denigrate or dive into the every week we get a little discouraged or angry or passionate, I'll say. And actually civics is not that. We have to turn that around. And you're right. Dave's right. I don't want to talk about politicians really. We should talk about what we need and what the city needs. And that's getting back to our list of priorities of what we would do with, say, $46 million. Why would we cheer $46 million into the state park? We don't own the state park. It's like the Seneca's building a new wing on their hotel. Good for them. It didn't help the city any, right? So I'd like to come up with our list of priorities to work on and then ask other people if that's their priority and then come up with a list, settle on it, and pursue it.
You know what's crazy too is because a lot of people don't know. So we got to get this information. We have to make them be more politically literate. No one would know that we don't get none of the money from the state parks. Right. The majority, I guarantee 90% of the people that I interact with, and that even the people that I have registered to vote, they don't know that. You know what I mean? So the thing, and we have a duty to be informed, but so that's why I tell people with me trying to be resourceful, please give me the information so I can try to spread it to the people. Yes. There was one little issue with the newspaper article. They said that the Entrepreneur School of Thought was trying to build up the community on 19th Street. No, we're for the whole Niagara Falls, not just 19th Street. The building is just located on 19th Street. Yeah. So we're trying to, in Niagara Falls and the greater area, all around. But the key thing is getting the information to the people. They don't, I'm telling you, a lot of things people they don't know. They're ignorant to the facts. So
when a city council person walks into your building next time, what do you ask for? What do you say? It's nice that people stop by, but a city council person actually has a job, which affects you personally. What do you ask? The crazy thing about that is if the city councilmen don't come, it's the ones running for city council that have been coming. Right, they're not there yet. We haven't heard from, we've had an open invitation for anyone from City Hall, the mayor's office. We want the people, the police, the Niagara Falls Police Department, to come talk. We got a platform, express yourself. You don't even have to talk. You go up there and express whatever you want. You don't got to talk to me. But it's hard when you're trying to invite people and they don't show up. So, but I talk to the ones running, and so I tell them, accountability is going to be key. And I tell them,
if you really care about Niagara Falls, if you don't get elected, you still should be working with me. You still should be trying to help. The election should end your care about your city and the people in it.
Trent, that is a fantastic point. I always say that too. If you cared enough to run and you lost, you don't care anymore. Like, should you still be in the game and suggesting things? I mean, maybe you only lost by 100 votes, but we need your knowledge. You ran, you could help somebody else who's running. You should stay in the sandbox and play with us, right? It gets frustrating. They run once, they disappear for life.
Yeah.
Hey, I see Brian Archie joined us. Is that for a question? I love when Brian Archie.
Hey. Good morning, people. What's up, Trent, Tom?
Hey, Brian, how you doing, bro?
Morning, Brian.
All right, and this is great discussion. And so I'm listening. I'm thinking here about this education, right? And I'm in the same place. We need to educate and inform, but there has to be a solid ask that comes after that information is presented, right? It's no good if it sits on the shelf. People need to have something to do, and sometimes we need to present what that to do is until they morph it into their own activity. But prior to all of that, right, you just hit on something key when you said that many people aren't even aware of some of the things that are taking place. And that's because they're in the struggle, right? And you see it on 19th all day. We have folks that what's in their face is what's going on right now. We have to attack some other avenues, regarding our health and wellness, right? Our housing, right? To make sure we get some of these other priorities out the way so people can then say, because this is the issue, and I've seen it, I'm doing this same work. They're focused on their focus, and who's in office is irrelevant until they do something that affects them, right? And they can put their finger on it and say, A plus B is C. Mm-hmm. Wow, but I'm way too late to do anything about it. So we have to have a much more holistic model. Not just run to the polls and let's get them registered. I'm with it all, but like ground level, right? I'm only as well as my neighbor. Have you eaten today?
Right.
Are you employed? And if not, how can we get you there?
Yep.
What training do you need to help that out? Are you in a situation where there may be some violence going on? What can we do to remove some of those barriers, those determinants, so that these other things are a little bit more illuminated? So I love the work. I love what you have going on over there, and definitely will partner with you at some point down the road.
Well, Brian, let me jump in there with the education part. You're familiar, I think, with this guaranteed income concept? I think one guy used it when he was running for president last year, brought it to my attention at least. Are you familiar with that guaranteed income concept?
I've heard a little bit about it, but I'm
it's
way to the left.
It's stunning. It's stunning how simple and effective it is. So basically, if anybody isn't familiar with it, in guaranteed income, instead of all of the various social network things that we pay for, either food stamps or heat assistance or unemployment, you're given money every month guaranteed. And no questions asked. Now you think that would do horrible things to society, right? It would be just the ruination of the world. Every place they do it is wildly successful. People take that money and they don't have the daily things that Brian just talked about. When am I going to eat today? Is my kid going to be warm tonight? Those things go away. It's not a ton of money. You're not putting it in a stock and bond program. You are paying the rent. You are paying the landlord. You are feeding your family. And so those pressures are off of you, and you can do other things like think about educating yourself. Think about getting a degree. Think about getting a better job. You can actually begin to live. So I mention all of that. We can educate each other on that. And we can read books on it and stuff. But various cities throughout the United States have applied to a program to be a test city for guaranteed income. Not Niagara Falls. Why isn't that being tested right in our city? And that's what I talk about when we don't have a plan of, okay, there's a test, let's apply. I don't think we applied. We didn't get rejected. So that would be a wonderful thing. Make our city an incubator for guaranteed income, or 1,000 other things that Brian just referenced to take the pressure off or figure out how we can improve ourselves. It's not always just the next, developer that we gave money to for a building or something along those lines. It's little things like this that we didn't ask for. Anyway, that's my rant. Sorry, Trent.
No, that's what did you say earlier? You said we need to continue discussions and things like to talking to working towards things. But the guy earlier said politicians don't like us talking. So why would they want to give people money when they don't? If you're worried about your feeding your family or having a place to live, you're not necessarily worried about voting or worried about what the politicians are doing. Now, if you start to provide people with this and they can start to think about other things, then they'll get more conscious on politics and things of that nature. So I can see why a politician wouldn't want that, because you want to keep people in the blind and things of that nature.
The biggest voter suppression is not any kind of normal lever of voter suppression. It is poverty. It is keeping people distracted so that they can't really ever focus on anything. That's since, King Tut practiced that. That's been around forever. But before we go, we're running out of time, but Mark Shear seems to have jumped on in. And Mark, do you have a question?
I do. How you doing, Trent?
Hey, how you doing?
Pretty good, pretty good. I've been here since 1999. I was the editor of the Gazette for several years. I was a reporter there too. You mentioned hope as being one of the things that you see that's not that you think needs to be addressed, the lack of hope.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious why you say that, and what do you think needs to be done? Because I agree with you. I mean, this is a beaten city in a lot of ways. There's a lot of people here who are kind of checked out and just, they don't believe, they just do not believe that this can happen. So why do you think hope is the thing that you mentioned? And then what do we do about that? How do you fix that?
Well, I say that because I'm a talker and I like to talk to people, but not only talking, I like to listen. And I've just seen over the years through talking to people, it's just the negative attitudes, and the negative attitude is just basically their hopelessness. And I always tell them, especially on 19th Street where we're at and dealing with people, I try to say we're gonna get the hopeless. We're gonna give them some hope. You know what I'm saying? Through anything, if it's just through early on, through listening, through talking, through having you around people with positive conversations, and just basically trying to show you the light and show you that we care about you, and we're going to work for a better future for Niagara Falls.
Mark, was that an answer?
Yeah, I don't know if I was still on here or not.
Yep.
What about, you mentioned 19th Street, and again, I mean, that is a part of the city that's been pretty much the same way for the 20 or so years I've been here.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of has a notorious reputation, and it's a crime area and all those things. I mean, what do you got to do? What has to be done to change that?
Oh, continue. Listen, a lot of times we neglect the people in those areas, and especially at the Entrepreneur School of Thought, I encourage those people to come. I don't care if you are alcoholic, if you're getting high. I'm not passing judgment. Come and be a part of this community building. Come be a part of this community resource center. Come. We've done a couple of things where we fed people in the community. We had clothes dropped off to where we just give them clothes. Anytime you can come, drink some coffee, drink tea, have a water. But we can't forget about them. We can't. It's what I call it. It's a marginalized community, and we got to get them off the margin, or at least let them know, no, you're part of us. You know what I mean? And I'm a part of them.
Right.
So,
Right. Let me ask one more thing real quick.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned the marginalized community. Now, I've been here a long time. I see there are resources for a lot of people in marginalized places, and yet the problems persist, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of money that comes into Niagara Falls for these things, and the problems persist. I mean, would you agree with that? I mean, do you see a lack of, I don't know what the word would be, but there's kind of a disconnect there.
We talk about the marginalized community, but we talk about the mismanagement of the city by leadership. I mean, Niagara Falls is bigger than downtown, than LaSalle, than DeVoe, Pine Avenue, a lot of the places that get the money that, or at least know how to, the citizens know how to get the money. You can ask that 10 people on 19th and Highland Avenue, what type of grants are available for small businesses throughout your city. They wouldn't know because they're not informed. And the city doesn't, I mean, they don't do a good job of informing their citizens. And like I said, they spend the resources in the areas that don't, put it like this, the population of the people aren't marginalized people.
All right, thanks, Trent.
Thank
All right,
you.
Mark, thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
All right. Thanks to Ruth and Brian. Trent, we already have to wrap it up. You're open every weekday or all weekend as well? I know it was 24/7 if we needed it. But
If you need it, 11 to 5, Monday through Friday. We do things on Saturday, like certain events. We have workshops. We're having a community cleanup May 1st, which is Saturday. May 8th, we're having a vision board workshop. We do need supplies for the community cleanup and old magazines for the vision board workshop. I want to say a few of the things. May 15th, we're having a cryptocurrency workshop by Colonel Birch. May 21st, we're having a fish fry by Tina Porter. She's doing that with our Express Yourself Friday, just to bring awareness to the Entrepreneur School of Thought. And May 28th, we're having a book signing by Carlos Muhammad. He has a book, Systemic Racism. He's a Niagara Falls native. So those are, besides the fish fry on Friday, those are things on the weekend. But it's up to the community. Whatever people want to do, I try to encourage them to come with their ideal and let's make it happen.
I'd like to, we'll talk, all week, I'm sure, but I'd like to use one of the walls in your facility, wherever it is, for, how you put up, Post-it notes and you say, what's important, this is important, you move it around, and we can have those people who come in, the 300 ideas that we talked about when we started this, and we could start moving those things around and get some consensus on what the number one problems are. The consensus I talked about, we could do it on a wall in your building if you want.
Now, I want you to tell me verbatim the question, because I'm going to print it out, and everybody that comes there for the next week or so, I'm going to have them tell me. I want them to write out, now, exactly what did you want me to ask them? What?
Well, let's see. I don't know. What is the number one? It's not problem. What's the number one business of Niagara Falls? What's the number one thing Niagara Falls needs to do?
To be a better place.
Just to even do, like, better? It's okay. It's bad. It's good. What do they expect? I don't even mean to say better. We money's not the problem. We can find as much money as we want anywhere we want. There's $50 million now going to a new center that we didn't even know about. Money is not a problem. So it's just ideas now. What do people want to see? What if every building on 19th Street, got a facelift? What if, what if guaranteed income was the thing, although that's a little bit highfalutin there. But, what is the problem? People need food, shelter, they need real things, and then they need jobs. Where's the workforce? Anywhere in America, it's changing, but certainly in the Falls, I hate to be political, but I love the phrase build back better. I mean, the Falls can't get any worse. It could, I bet, but let's build back better. If money's not the problem and they're going to throw it around from Washington, what would you do with the money? So I don't know how to phrase that into one question. I've wrestled with it, but
we'll figure it out. I'll figure it out by tomorrow.
The entrepreneurial mentality is, what would you do with your life if you had unlimited resources, no money worries, perfect health, so you didn't have health problems, and unlimited time, because you're young and you're not thinking about death yet. What if you had those three things? What would you do as a career? That's what they tell you in school, right? None of us could picture that out. I want to play for the Yankees. But that is a question as well. What would the city do if it had unlimited money, time wasn't a problem, and the streets and snowplows and everything else were there, and health was the concern? What would we do with our time? What would we want our city to be? That's, I guess, another part of the question. We'll figure it out. Anyway, I hate these interviews because I talk more than you, the guest. I talk more than the guest.
No, you didn't. This was great. Very informative.
Not the last time we're going to do this, I hope.
No, listen, I'm excited about meeting you and just building with you.
All right. Thank you, Trent. I'm going to bring Ruth to see if she doesn't come on her own first. And I'm going to bring people every time I come from now on.
One thing, tell them, do not be afraid of your neighborhood, of your community, especially of 19th Street. We got it. I mean, not like you said, Niagara Falls is a beautiful place with beautiful people. Don't get turned off by hearing a couple things.
All right, will do. Trent, have a great Sunday. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you. Thank you.
See you soon.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Yes, sir. Yeah.